in computer science, there's this term, this concept of, in breadth first versus depth first searching or something, right? And I kind of think of what you're doing in a way is a Q&A that's sort of depth first, I guess. Sort of like the fact that you have these siloed sites, right, is a different approach than I think other people have taken, where you sort of say you can ask anything, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you obviously can't ask anything because some things don't have answers.
Yeah.
You can't ask anything because
first of all, you can't ask hypothetical things, right? Like on any of your sites. Is that right or no?
Well, we came up with a rule that actually works really, really well, which is I'll only ask about something that's actually a real problem. Don't ask if you went back in time and killed Hitler in 1938, what would be happening in Libya today, because that's just it's fun, but
there's plenty of other places on the internet for that. You're saying.
Exactly. We're all about directed. I am having this problem. Has anybody else seen this problem? How do I solve this?
Yeah.
And that's one of several rules that our community has, together with us, come up with that have helped us define something that makes the site really work. But the part about the verticals, about how you can only have specific silos and you have to go deep first, just comes around to you have to have an expert who can answer your question. And now, I don't mean, when I say expert, I don't mean like Emerald answering a question about cooking. I just mean a working cook. Just somebody else they could be your peer, but somebody who actually knows the canon.
Also, isn't there how does it, I think one of the problems with Yahoo Answers, right, is that no one really cares about their Yahoo Answers reputation, right? I mean,
probably. Even if they had a reputation, the questions being asked are all at this point, what do penguins eat?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great question. It's on the internet everywhere, but.
So really, but do you think that sort of the depth first approach makes people care more about their reputation? Because it's like you're answering amongst your peers?
Absolutely, and it's going to translate into a better career, essentially. It's going to translate into respect amongst your peers. It's going to translate into more knowledge that allows you to do your job better. We have a guy that was wasting a lot of time on World of Warcraft, and he was earning reputation or whatever it is that you earn in World of Warcraft, and really devoting slavish numbers of hours to that, and getting nowhere. And one of his friends suggested to him, hey, why don't you spend the same amount of time on Stack Overflow as you used to spend on World of Warcraft. And if you see a question, just go do the research, pull out your compiler, try it out, and write an answer. And he became, one of our number one users. He became a number one user over the course of several months by directing his, obsessive compulsive World of Warcraft energy to Stack Overflow instead, and massively upgraded his career from that, and now works for us as a programmer. So you see, it's a way of bettering yourself, essentially. It's an opportunity to get better within a field that you care about and that you love.
And so that's your business model, and you just launched something new around this, the Jobs 2.0 thing, right? Can you talk a little about that?
So what we just launched, it's called Careers 2.0, and it's basically a way for employers to search Stack Overflow to find great programmers and to hire for the most part. And so programmers work on we're not calling it a resume because it's more than a resume. It's like a resume plus all your work on Stack Overflow. We call it your profile. And ultimately, we'll add other things like GitHub, source code, blog posts and stuff like that. But right now, an employer finds you and then can read some of the answers that you've written on Stack Overflow and judge for themselves if you're worth an interview, if you're worth going to the next interview stage. So what happens on Careers 2.0 is you can sort of skip over the phone screen at the beginning and maybe the first couple of interviews, because you can actually read the work this person is doing and judge, I can tell that this guy really knows C#.
This applies to programmers. It wouldn't apply to cooking, though.
It might.
It might. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's more to judge a cook than just do they know the answers.
So you think this could apply to all the verticals you do?
I think it applies to a lot of the verticals, and it may not necessarily be for professional jobs, and it doesn't have to apply to all of them. I mean, we can. I think that the company would be very profitable even if we just did it for programmers, and all the other sites were sort of incidental. If we can make some revenue off of them, great. Yeah,
because Q&A is tough to monetize through ad models, right? I mean, I think because it's typically there's not a sort of a purchasing context. There's not,
Not necessarily. I mean, there might be. It might be, but it might be hard to detect because it's not normalized enough. So I think it is traditionally monetized very, very poorly. If you look at the Answers.com, which is a public company, and Yahoo Answers obviously has got ridiculous traffic. And
they were Answers just acquired. They had 100 million users and acquired for 120 million or something. So
that was really more of a taken private than acquired. But
Yeah,
they have enormous flood of traffic that they can't monetize that well because they just throw Google AdSense on there.
Okay.
But I think that essentially what you're doing with the Q&A site is you're saying, if you can gather people's reputation in certain areas, and if you have a structured knowledge of that, then what you're selling to an advertiser ultimately is access to people who are experts or who know about something.
Okay.
So if you want to reach somebody who's an expert at C#, possibly because you want to hire them, then we know who's good at C#.